Imagine waking up tomorrow and hearing an incredible announcement. Scientists have discovered a way to extend the human lifespan to 500 years. Not 100 years, not 150 years, but 500 years. At first, it sounds like the greatest achievement in human history. No more worrying about getting old too quickly, no more feeling like life is too short. People would finally have enough time to do everything they've ever dreamed of. But would a 500-year life really be a blessing? Or could it become humanity's biggest problem? Let's find out. The first thing that would change is education. Today, most people spend around 20 years learning before starting their careers. But if humans lived for 500 years, spending 20 years in school would seem incredibly short. People might study for 50 or even 100 years before choosing a profession. Why rush? After all, they would still have hundreds of years left to live. Universities would become larger than ever. Students might spend decades mastering multiple subjects. Someone could become a doctor, an engineer, a scientist, and a lawyer, all in a single lifetime. Knowledge would grow at an unbelievable pace. But this would create a new problem. If people stayed in school for decades, they would enter the workforce much later. Entire generations might struggle to find their place in society. Next comes careers. Today, most people work for around 40 years. But what happens when a person can work for 400 years? Retirement might disappear completely. Imagine applying for a job and competing against someone who has 250 years of experience. Young workers would have almost no chance. The most powerful positions in business and government could remain occupied for centuries. A company's CEO might stay in charge for 150 years. Political leaders could dominate entire eras. Innovation might actually slow down because older generations would have much more influence than younger ones. The world could become stable, but it could also become stuck. Now, let's talk about family. A longer life would completely change relationships. Today, having four generations alive at once is rare. But in a 500-year world, there could be 10 or even 15 generations living together. Imagine attending a family reunion with hundreds of direct descendants. You might meet your great, 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 great grandchildren. Family trees would become so large that tracking relatives would be almost impossible. Marriage might also change. Would people still promise to stay together forever? Forever suddenly becomes a very long time when forever means 500 years. Many people might choose multiple marriages throughout their lives. Then comes the biggest challenge: population growth. Every year, millions of babies are born. Right now, people eventually die, making room for new generations. But if humans started living for 500 years, the population would explode. Cities would become overcrowded. Housing shortages would become severe. Food demand would skyrocket. Governments might have to introduce strict birth limits. Some countries could even create laws controlling how many children people are allowed to have. Without careful planning, the planet could become dangerously crowded. Resources that seem abundant today might become extremely scarce. The environment would feel the pressure too. More people means more energy consumption, more transportation, more factories, more waste. Forest could disappear faster. Fresh water could become harder to find. Climate change could accelerate dramatically. To survive, humanity would need revolutionary technologies. Clean energy would become essential. Massive recycling systems would be required. Perhaps humanity would even be forced to colonize other planets. For the first time, space exploration might become a necessity rather than a dream. But there is another fascinating possibility. Human civilization could become incredibly advanced. Think about the greatest scientists in history. People like Einstein, Newton, and Tesla achieved amazing things in a single lifetime. Now imagine if they had 500 years to work. Scientific discoveries could happen much faster. A researcher could spend centuries solving a single problem. Doctors might cure diseases that seem impossible today. Engineers could build technologies beyond our imagination. Human knowledge could grow at an unprecedented rate. But surprisingly, living longer might not make people happier. One reason life feels valuable is because it is limited. People chase dreams because they know time is precious. But what happens when you have 500 years? Many people might constantly delay important goals. I'll do it next decade. I'll travel later. I'll start my dream project in 50 years. Procrastination could become a way of life. Some people might lose motivation entirely. After all, when you have hundreds of years available, urgency disappears. And without urgency, many people may stop appreciating the present moment. Another challenge would be boredom. Human beings love new experiences. But after centuries, many experiences would repeat themselves. Imagine celebrating your 300th birthday. You've already seen countless trends, technologies, movies, sports, and cultural changes. Some people might feel mentally exhausted, others might become detached from society. Psychologists would face completely new challenges. How do you keep a person emotionally healthy after hundreds of years of life? No one knows, because humanity has never faced such a situation before. Now imagine crime and punishment. If someone commits a serious crime today, a life sentence might mean several decades in prison. But in a world where people live for 500 years, what counts as a life sentence? 100 years? 200 years? 300 years? Legal systems around the world would need to be redesigned. Questions about justice, forgiveness, and rehabilitation would become much more complicated. Society would need entirely new rules. And then there is the ultimate question: would death still exist? Even if humans could live 500 years, accidents would still happen, natural disasters would still occur, people could still get injured. No technology can completely eliminate risk. Eventually, every person would still face the reality of mortality. The difference is that the journey would be much longer. At first glance, a 500-year lifespan sounds like a dream. More time with loved ones, more opportunities, more knowledge, more experiences. But it would also bring enormous challenges: overpopulation, resource shortages, social inequality, boredom, and entirely new questions about what it means to be human. Perhaps the value of life isn't determined by how long it lasts. Perhaps it's determined by how we choose to spend the time we have. So, if humans could live for 500 years, would the world become better? Or would we simply create bigger problems for ourselves? What do you think? Would you choose to live for 500 years? Let us know in the comments.